I think there's about a 10-second delay.
Ah.
Okay. Oh, and as Kevin had noted previously, just make sure your Outlook is off, because every time a message or a new email comes in, it'll make a noise.
I just have do not disturb happening.
Cool.
Yeah, good call. All right.
Oh, look at us. We're all on YouTube. I can see it.
Yeah, the lag is a little disconcerting, but
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm not watching.
don't watch.
Yeah, don't watch.
Don't watch while you're talking.
Yeah, I decided not to turn on YouTube because there's too many monitors happening here.
Too much going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Lindsay, are you still there?
I am.
Okay.
So there's 36 people on now.
Yep.
So I'll leave it to you, Katie, if you.
Yeah, we're just going to wait a few more minutes, everyone who is watching.
Okay.
Just a couple minutes after 11, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
42 watching now. This is getting, the numbers just keep going up and up and up. Kevin, is our audio on YouTube or just our photos?
There's audio as well.
Audio and video, yeah.
Okay. I have it all muted, so I wasn't sure. Thanks for joining in, Anita, Terry, and Ernest. Thank you so much for your positive words in our chat box there. Oh, we got some more here. Graham, Avery, Maureen, hi. We're just going to wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started just a little bit after 11, maybe 1 or 2 more minutes here.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm a little more streamlined now, Terry. I can run faster.
Yeah.
Aerodynamics.
That's right.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Carla, Vince, Coolio, Kevin. Oh, this is great.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah. We're up to 60 people watching live, so that's great. We're just going to wait 1 more minute, everyone, and then we'll get started.
Hello, Stacy. We've got our directive from Terry. Go.
She says, go, go, go. I'm waiting until 11:02 just to make sure that we've got the majority of people watching at the same time here.
Yeah, great.
Oh, and it's 11:02, so let's get started. First of all, thank you everyone who is listening for joining in. As the title says, we are talking about business during COVID-19. For those of you who are on Twitter or LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, feel free to tag us. We're at Alberta Innovates across most channels. Also, our hashtag for this segment is hashtag Shift Live Chat. You can also include hashtag Shift by AI and hashtag Alberta Innovates, Tech Edmonton, and Platform Calgary. And so with that, I'm going to get started with some introductions. So joining us today, we have Terry Rock, President and CEO of Platform Calgary. Hi, Terry.
Hello.
We have Lan Tan, who is the Director of Entrepreneurial Development at Tech Edmonton. Hi, Lan.
Hi, everyone.
And Lindsay, I'm going to say your name right, Spedavecchia, is that right?
Very good, Katie.
Yay! She is the Technology Development Advisor here at Alberta Innovates. But before we get started, I think that it would be really helpful for everyone to give a 30-second overview of the work that they do with their organizations. Terry, we'll start with you.
Sure. Platform Calgary works with early stage entrepreneurs. We're a keystone organization in the Calgary innovation ecosystem. For many years, you would have known us as Calgary Technologies Inc. or Innovate Calgary, but we've recently changed to be Platform Calgary. And, at least 2 weeks ago, we were actively engaged in building a 50,000 square foot innovation center in downtown Calgary to serve as the hub for innovation for our organization. We're still doing that. We have over 100 entrepreneurs working right now in programs that we provide through our signature program Junction for first-time founders with a minimum viable product, and as well as our Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator. That's a partnership with a group out of British Columbia. So lots of activity still happening in the platform space.
Awesome. Lan, how about you?
So I'm a Director of Entrepreneur Development with Tech Edmonton. So Tech Edmonton is a joint venture between the University of Alberta and the City of Edmonton through the Edmonton Economic Development Corporation. We work with all the spin-offs out of the University of Alberta and with later stage companies. And we work in partnership with our, we call our family member and cousin Startup Edmonton, where they work with the earlier stage companies. Everything is happening, very active right now. Startup Edmonton has moved all their courses online. Tech Edmonton, we have mobilized all our volunteers to help entrepreneurs, especially with the situation that's happening now. In our incubator space, we are working with 38 companies. So while the situation is a bit challenging right now, each and every entrepreneur, they are doing their best, and we're here to support them.
Thank you. And Lindsay.
So I'm Lindsay Spedavecchia, and I'm the Technology Development Advisor for Alberta Innovates down in the Southwest region. We're a part of the Entrepreneurial Investments Division of Alberta Innovates. There's about 10 of me spread throughout the province.
There's only one of you, Lindsay.
I appreciate that. Good thing. I'm sure the rest of them are happy there's only one of me. We mostly work with SMEs, the TDAs, as we're called. We work with SMEs more from a coaching aspect, of business advisory services. We do a lot of connecting through ecosystems throughout the province and federally as well. We also I like to call it shepherds into our Big Five funding programs of when funding is appropriate and sourcing out what other opportunities there might be for SMEs. And then we're also very actively involved with our regional innovation network spread across the province as well.
Awesome. And you will be representing our rural clients for the most part during this chat.
I will. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on across the province. Yes, definitely within more of the rural areas and some of the activity that's going on based on the challenges we're facing right now.
Great. So let's just dive right in. So we are under the most crazy time in my life anyway. What are the sentiments and feelings that you guys are witnessing across businesses in Alberta? Lan, how about we start with you?
So I'll talk more from my observation, the Edmonton community. I think that everybody is at the edge. So yeah. we are all at the edge because this is unprecedented times. There's so many unknowns. However, we are seeing a lot of people mobilizing to address the issue. A lot of companies are pivoting. And exploring new markets. So some of them, for example, diagnostics that is meant for prostate cancer, they're now looking into diagnostics for COVID, for example. And there's one startup that is doing it. They're doing transportation internationally, more on the logistics. Now they are looking at local, right? So everybody's pivoting to identify the opportunities, as you can say it now, and make the best out of the situation. So the community is coming together. So there's an initiative called YG Tech Cares. So this is 20 plus tech companies that are raising funds for the Edmonton Food Bank. So these are the things that, people are just mobilizing, come together, and together as a community, we're trying to get through this phase.
Totally. Lindsay, I know you and I had talked a little bit offline about how communities are really coming together. Do you want to speak a little bit about how people are turning to community over competition during this time?
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing very similar things, right? Everybody's on edge. Nobody has all the answers, right? So it's kind of, can we bring the brain power together to see what can we achieve together at this time? I think in some of the smaller communities, the more, I'll say, rural cities like Lethbridge, Red Deer, Lloydminster, they're actually starting to form economic recovery task force. And rather than waiting until after, forming them now so that a lot of the members that are usually part of like the regional innovation networks, they're starting to pivot into these economic recovery task force, really take advantage of bringing a cohort of all of those community partners together to see what they can do to support businesses through this as opposed to afterwards, right? So like Lan mentioned about the pivoting and things like that, we're seeing companies that are part of our industrial association down here all coming together and putting up their hands and saying, well, who wants to work together to pivot to make respirators or to do hand sanitizers? It's actually very it's very nice to see that come in. That's the positive shot that you're seeing while everybody is scared, is seeing everybody come together.
That's really humbling. I love that. Terry, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have. So one of the roles that I play is a co-chair of the Alberta Innovation Corridor, which is a partnership with the two big cities in Alberta, really trying to line up our innovation ecosystem so that we can be more effective as two big cities. And about 2 weeks ago, we put in place a impact survey. And that impact survey has had about 165 responses. So I can tell you how people are telling us that they're impacted. So 2/3 of the people have had their customer base drop off right away. If they're a company that's trying to raise money, their funder meetings have been canceled or deferred. And in the venture investing space, we're seeing effectively, people are calling it like lockdown is kind of how they're talking about it for now, freezing. Partner businesses having challenges, and that has a knock-on effect to you. And even the challenges of working from home, we kind of think of at least the world that we're in tech is that everybody's going to be remote, but the fact is that you have childcare issues and those kinds of things. So people are taking action now, and I think one of the things that we've seen is that, unfortunately, some of the programs that have come out have been a bit late and maybe not as targeted to the direct needs of some of the people that we're dealing with. But here's what we're seeing broadly is how people are responding is that they're changing timelines. So when we're building a innovation center right now that's supposed to be up in a year, maybe we add 6 months onto that and have to then recalibrate everything that we're doing. Scaling back staff, talking to funders. Those are the kinds of things that people are doing. I think that one of the big things that we've seen, we have run the Alistair Ross Technology Center, and we have a number of tenants, and we just waived all the fees that we could waive, and any business under 50, we allowed them to defer their rent to some future date. The reason is that immediately their orders were canceled. If you're a service provider, you were no longer in business, and so they had to quickly, the dominoes fell really fast.
Yeah.
And so we all tried to do our best to respond as quickly as we could. And I think this landlord-tenant issue is going to be one of the big ones that we're going to have to sort out as we go, because if landlords continue to expect to be paid and businesses had their revenue go to zero in a month, that's going to be challenging.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'd like to add on to that too, Terry. I totally agree with you, and that's why also in Edmonton, for Tech Edmonton, Startup Edmonton, we have also waived the rent to help the entrepreneurs move forward, because and that is a huge relief for them.
Yeah, that's so good that you guys are doing that.
So,
but it's also hard for us, right? Like, so we are a nonprofit, and we're seeing basically 60% of our monthly earned revenue go out the window. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard. That's hard.
But the support that you guys are doing is I think going to help long term. It's difficult for everyone now, but the long term implications of that are really going to be positive, I think.
So, guys, I want to explore, use this as a jumping off point, talking about the hardships and the consequences, and some of the words you used, Terry: lockdown, 2/3 of the customer drop off. There's obviously going to be huge mental health implications with all this as well. Now, I know this isn't your area of forte for you folks, but in terms of mental health, what are you guys hearing about some of the strategies people are employing to, maintain a healthy outlook? And what are some of the things you guys are doing, perhaps? Terry, why don't we start with you, and then we'll move around.
Well, a couple of things that come to mind. I know what I'm experiencing. Someone texted me yesterday that we were supposed to connect during the day, and I'm like, wow, it's 5 o'clock, and all I did was change the channels. I've been in this room for like 2 weeks, and it's like I had 10 meetings yesterday. But he said, yeah, it's like a 2-week long day. Like that's kind of how it feels, and so somehow you have to get out. So what I've been doing is every morning I go for a walk by myself. I do I have a 5K loop that I do. We have a morning team check-in, so we have a Zoom room that opens up in the morning, and everybody can just drop in. And basically, honestly, people are sitting there doing their emails next to each other on a video conference, and maybe they talk about what they had for dinner last night or whatever. But one of the things I just want to mention is that this whole notion of mental health in business is important. And so we have, in our Junction program, actually bring balanced programming into the program for the entrepreneurs, so that we're giving them the tools as part of building a healthy business. They're building mental resilience as part of that. And so there's a Calgary startup called Headversity that is actually doing a session with our Junction cohort next week, or maybe this week, virtually. So we think it's fundamental, and build it right into our programming.
Yeah,
absolutely. Where can people find more information about that afterwards?
Well, Headversity is that organization, and then Junction is just on our programs page. Cohort 4 is on right now, and we'll be starting a new one in the fall. Yeah.
Thanks, Terry. How about you, Lan?
So here at Tech Edmonton, we are checking in with all the entrepreneurs that we are working with directly. So our EIRs, myself, and my facility manager, we are doing our best to check in with our entrepreneurs. So myself personally, I go to my happy place, and that is to continue to keep up with my Chinese language. So I'm listening to lots and lots of Chinese broadcasting and Chinese videos and stuff like that. So for me, that is where I try to keep up to date with my heritage, and that is always going back to our childhood, and that's where the happy place is. So that's where I'll do.
Yeah, that's cool.
So and of course, as Terry said, it is like a 14 days day. So we are the first 2 weeks of the situation. Everyone is scrambling. Everyone is adjusting. Right. The transition, the change of environment, change of location, and our team members too. Those who are not used to working remotely, that is challenging for them as well. So that is us, as leaders and managers, we check in on them to make sure that they are okay and they have everything they need to continue with their work, right? So there is the health of everyone. I think it's a huge play, and we do our best. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now, sorry, I just want to comment on one thing. We've got it's quite active on YouTube. Someone pointed out the fact that childcare is very difficult as well. And Lindsay, I know you've got some young ones at home that as does Katie, and I'm not sure about Lan and Terry, but maybe you can speak for a moment on that.
Yeah.
Lindsay, what those challenges are like.
For sure. I could speak way more than a moment on that. Those memes on there are real about, tying your kids up while you're working and things like that. I have a thing, isn't it? They are. I have a 4-year-old and a 6.5-year-old. So yes, definitely challenging. I read a really good quote. I'm not going to do it justice, but the other day they said, "You're not working from home. There's a global pandemic. and you're at home trying to get some work done. And I think that perspective really resonated with me, right? And I think, like, in terms of mental health and things like that, I think perspective is a big point of play here, because you cannot expect, realistically, to do the same work and be as productive as you were in an office environment or in your normal environment when you have 2 little kids running around or things like that. And I think it's a little bit of that. We have to be a little more gentle with ourselves right now and know that, we're performing as best as we can. And there's a lot going on, right? So we're talking about, mental health. There's the piece about working remotely. There's the piece about being isolated and not having as much, touch point and things like that. And I think it is important for people to set those boundaries, right? Get up and get ready for the day and have some space if you can. Carve out some space and say, this is my work time and I need to take breaks and things like that. And then I think there's the mental health aspect around the businesses themselves. They're struggling. There are businesses, I know down here, there's been a lot of businesses that have had layoffs recently and things like that. These are really, really difficult things for these people to do. It's difficult for the people being laid off. It's difficult for the people having to do it. I know Economic Development Lethbridge down here, we're one of the organizations that spearheaded the task force. And right in the work streams, the very first meeting, one of the work streams was emotional support. So I'm seeing community acknowledge that, which is good, because right alongside financial support and online resources is emotional support. And it's building up that peer network, making sure counselors are available, and I mean that very sincerely, having people to talk to. Everybody, like I said before, nobody has all the right answers. But rather than sitting and struggling on your own and starting to tread water and not know what to do, it really does help to bring other people in and talk it through with them. They might have other ideas. They might point you in other directions. And if anybody has one takeaway today, if they're a business owner, I would say, please reach out to your ecosystem. That's why they're there. Yes. I don't care where you are in the province. Yeah. There are ecosystems everywhere. There are local people. Because we're all remote, anybody can be contacted anytime. And it's that first reach out that will make the biggest difference. Right. Because money makes a difference. The funding is great, but you need that ability to be able to be connected into the right sources at the right time and talk to the right people. And it is going to be leveraging the regional innovation networks and all of the partners and all of the pieces through the province. That is what those people are here for.
Absolutely.
So can I pick up on that for sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I was reminded that so I'm cheating. I have a Slack window open with my team sending me good answers, by the way.
That is cheating.
So we have. I was reminded of 2 programs. One is our venture mentoring service, which is also in Edmonton, and we really do try to surround entrepreneurs with mentors as a core part of building an ecosystem. We also have something called CEO Roundtable, that is a group of 16 entrepreneurs that are facilitated in monthly get-togethers, and through the process of having to lay people off, they actually had a peer support group that was able to help them through that process, for some of them for the first time. And so those actually adding, and I think that, those are formal things that are there, but pretty clearly you have those networks available to you, and this is the time to reach out to them if you are struggling. And as I have a board of directors, and I've been really fortunate that I'm able to do those kind of peer calls or not peer calls, but reach out to my board and have conversations about how to do things. Yeah.
I want to add to that. In the Edmonton area, we have an initiative called Startup TNT, and it started off at a brewery, where every Thursday night we'll come together and just have drinks and talk and just share with each other their experience. So as this restriction came to place, Zach, he brought it onto online, and and now Startup TATs at Discord. So everybody gets on that every Thursday at 6 o'clock. And then there's lots of fun things going on in there. And this is such a great way to just get people to relax, talk about all different things, and not necessarily business, just everything in general. And it's a fun environment, and that's just one way of the entrepreneurs to just for a few hours just.
Right.
And is anybody welcome to join in on that, Lan?
Yes.
Oh, great. So maybe we'll post the link after on Twitter for people.
Good call. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So we
I think we're going to be doing, we've been doing Friday afternoon happy hours partnered with Thin Air Labs in Calgary. And I think this Friday we're expanding it to partner out with Edmonton. I'm not positive, but everybody's welcome. We've had people from Toronto and all over that are just reconnecting with people. And it's a Zoom call where we're having a cocktail together, and then we flip everyone into breakout rooms, and we have smaller conversations for 2 hours. It's like a 2-hour speed dating, just reconnect every Friday afternoon.
That's a great idea.
That's great. We'll definitely post those on Twitter for everybody after, so they can join in. So I want to move along a little bit. We've touched briefly about resources. So I know that we have financial resources available for entrepreneurs, but we also have community resources available. Platform Calgary has a really robust link, but is there any other places that people should go to find out where they might find other resources?
So in the Edmonton area, there is a website called COVIDcontinuity.com, and that was pulled together by a group of entrepreneurs. And this is one of my very favorite web page that I go to when I want to get information.
Great. So COVIDcontinuity.com. We'll post that in Twitter as well.
Yeah. And then just one more, at Tech Edmonton's resources page, we also have similar, but what we've done there is we have also added international challenges and things like that where companies can look into taking advantage of too.
Great. Lindsay, why don't you speak to what Alberta Innovates is doing for entrepreneurs during this time?
Sure thing. So, a couple things. Just in general, and I know that a lot of people have been asking this, so I'll just say it to make sure that I get the message out there. There has been a lot of questions about, well, what's happening with Alberta Innovates? What's happening with the funding programs through all of this? We are completely open and running as we were before. So first of all, there's been no disruption to our funding programs for any kind of projects, our vouchers, our associate programs, those kinds of things. We are all still taking in applications. Our intake process is still open. There are some conversations going on internally about, what else could we do? Are there other opportunities? And those are ongoing conversations. But in the meantime, while those conversations are going on, all of our regular programs are going. And I've been meeting with clients. I had clients that were already kind of talking about applications and things like that before. I had a client get approved yesterday. So I can honestly say this is still happening.
They're still in business. Yep.
Exactly. And I think more than ever, a lot of my meetings right now, because clients are at home, SMEs are at home, they're spending a lot of time working on their business rather than in their business, right? They're trying to figure out, what are they going to do now? What do they need to put in place? And so the one thing I'll say kind of about the funding and the financials and things like that, the federal government's coming out with some things, the province is coming out with some things. There are entities like community foundations across the province and across the nation is one. Community Futures is another. There's a lot of different organizations, but consulting around where the financial pieces make the most sense is just as important as applying for them. So what I mean is taking time and taking a breather to have those conversations in consultation to make sure you're going with the right opportunities right now and you're doing what's right for your business, not just today, but for sustainability 3 months out, 6 months out, needs to be part of that process as well. I know down here in Lethbridge, and I'll just throw out this link. I think I tweeted it out the other day too, for anybody who follows me on Twitter, but business.chooselethbridge.ca/recovery. That's our Economic Development Lethbridge's page for that task force, and they are posting up information and opportunities. I know the federal government has that as well, and they've got a lot of central sites going for that. Things are moving fast. We're getting new information daily and every few days. So I think getting plugged into some of the sites that have been mentioned already and keeping an eye on that is important. But then also, and I'm going back to the reaching out part, talking to people about it and having those conversations before you reach out and start doing it is just as important. And I think we've got lots of resources through the partners here, through Platform and Tech Edmonton, and also, you know, Innovate Edmonton and those ones, but rurally as well. The chambers are all on board. The economic development pieces are. We've got Startup Lloydminster. We've got all the community futures across the province, and we've got your, like myself, your TDAs.
Yeah.
You know, plugging into them and figuring out what's good financially is going to be really important.
So on that,
just one.
go ahead,
Sorry,
Lan.
I just want to plug in that if for other resources available, we also in Edmonton, we also have Business Link that also really help entrepreneurs to get through things too. So in other words, is those of you listening out there, please don't be shy. Just reach out to us. The Edmonton Regional Innovation Network. There's a lot of members in it, and you know, if you reach out to me and I can help you, we will refer you to somebody who can. So please don't hesitate.
That's a great message.
In Calgary, there's I just wanted to we've been gathering things. The Alberta Corridor, abcorridor.com, is also trying to aggregate Calgary economic development and the Innovate Edmonton sphere as well. And then the Calgary Chamber actually has been a real rock star in our community in gathering resources, reaching out to people directly, and really trying to do hands-on help. So I wanted to make sure that people know that, you know, I think that resource is there, and they've really stepped up. Their website is now all about this. So it's good to see in our community. Yeah.
So that's really great. Let's pivot a little bit. Sorry, John, did you?
I just want to make a quick point. We've got some stuff coming through on YouTube. And I just want to address them real quick. We've got Barbara Engelbart, who's mentioned Business Link is across the province. So no matter where people are, they can help out. And then just in terms of funding and the financial aspect of things, and this could be opening a big can of worms, I don't know. But the struggles are going to be different for everybody, for every different level of business. So there's those businesses that have some revenue who can, you know, apply to some of these programs. But then there's those startups who have no revenue. You know, and what sort of support do they have? And then just to park that thought for a second, we also had a comment from Radley Robots, who says there seems to be a lot of potential and new sources of funding, but it's almost dizzying to figure out which can be helpful and where to devote your time and effort.
Yeah.
So if, you know, Lan, perhaps if you can comment on that, and then we can move on.
So there are lots of help from all different levels of the government, for sure. But of course, there are restrictions that is attached to them. For example, the latest one with the wage subsidy, right? You have to show that your revenue has dropped 30% due to COVID, and then there is a cap of up to $58,700, I think. You know, 75% of that, right? So there are things there. It will help. You know, I think the intent is to save jobs, and I think that's a good thing. Unfortunately, you're right. This will not help our startup community, and they will be the ones that will be struggling. So, so for them is you know, my advice for them would be is like, you know, let's find other ways of you know, diverting, you know, your market. Find other ways of sales because there are no support there, unfortunately, right? So. Come and see us, and then we will try to figure something out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only support that might be coming is what BDC is putting in on for venture-backed companies. A one-to-one match on is coming up. It's being talked about. Details aren't out yet, and it's unclear whether the Alberta ecosystem is actually going to be able to take advantage of that, because the way that investment happens in Alberta is a little bit different than other parts of the community of the country. So that's something we're paying attention to and making sure we're going to advocate so that our earliest stage startups that are highly promising, they put 2 to 5 years of work in, and this is just that's worth saving. That's worth putting the time and the effort in to keep it going.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I've spoken with AEC, the director there, and she mentioned that their funds are still, moving ahead. Like Accelerate Fund 3 is still a go, so that one's still moving ahead, and their portfolio and the funds that they fund, the portfolio companies, they're helping those portfolio companies to get through this hump. So for those guys, right, they're there for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a time of uncertainty, and everybody feels like it's March 45th instead of April 1st. But what can companies be doing right now to help them in the future? Other than money. Well, I'm thinking like marketing and those types of things.
Well, I want to start with, I think there's clear-headed assessment of where you're at. And I can speak from experience, because I just on Monday had a 2-hour board meeting specifically doing this. And we found the Sequoia Capital Matrix that I had forwarded on to you, but it's a scenario planning tool. Yeah, where you on the top you put the macro scenarios that are out of your control. How long is this going to last? And if it lasts for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or more, and your revenue is impaired, what is that impairment going to be? And just actually lay it out across the top. And then across the other side of the matrix, you put the things you can control. So we cut our budget 10%, 20%, and what variable costs can we actually control? That was very focusing for our senior management and board to have a conversation about that. And we honed in on 2 scenarios that we're going to be working through, and then preparing our response as we get signals on which is the scenario that's going to come out. So that's the first thing, is actually having an understanding of the structure of your business and how it's going to respond in this, and map it out. We have companies in our sort of orbit that are dealing with scaling problems now, because they're so popular in this world that they're scaling. So we have Bessie Box is a organic food delivery, and they've just been swamped. And it's a good news, sad news, challenging situation, right? So, but they're just they're trying to figure out how to make that work. We had a company be created from 2 entrepreneurs that were in our programs that had complementary skill sets, and they've now created a new company called Cleared.ai that's proposing to use infrared cameras and AI to detect, to help people get back to work and things like that. That happened like last week. So I love working with entrepreneurs, because this is just what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lindsay, sorry.
I just want to add to what Terry was saying, that yes, while we are each entrepreneur, they're fighting fire right now on the daily operation, it is very important to step back and look at the big picture, right? Look at your runway, right? How much do you have left, and what do you need to do to make sure this runway will last you for at least the next 6 months? So, like as Terry said, right, like take those steps, and that, there are different tools that would be available, on how to delay payment. And now there's a lot of these kind of things that entrepreneurs can bring up with their suppliers, because this is unprecedented times. Everyone, I believe, they are flexible, right? Yeah. And also to look at your entire supply chain too. If you are at that stage where you're producing, look at your supply chain as well, because this is a globally impacted situation. So you got to see where things are coming, and that there's going to be delays there too. So these are like big picture. There are day-to-day things, but then also look at the big strategy. And And again, across the province, all of us that we are, as service providers, especially those of us who are funded by Alberta Innovates in their Regional Innovation Network, we're here to really listen and help you.
That's wonderful. So Lindsay, can you give some tips on how companies can stay competitive and relevant during this time?
Yep. So, I mean, it's piggybacking a little bit on what's already been said with Lan and Terry, but part of it is actually taking that moment, I'll say taking that pause, to see and assess your current situation and your short-term situation, right? So forget a year from now for a minute, what about 3 months, right? And what can you do in this current environment? Sometimes it's actually fully pivoting. Sometimes it's just taking advantage of an opportunity. And I don't mean that cynically, I mean that in reality. We had a company that had a fleet of vans. They paired up with another company that needed a delivery service, right? It is things like that. It's stepping out of the box and thinking, where can I get a little bit of revenue coming in to take advantage in the moment? I really do recommend talking to like the TDAs in your region, the RINs. There are a lot of business advisors in there, in those groups. Business Link has business advisors. Community Futures has business advisors. It doesn't matter where you are in the province. There are a lot of people spread out, and sometimes it's putting those objective eyes on to help you source out a new opportunity. So I always use the phrase low-hanging fruit. What's your lowest hanging fruit that you can go after today? Where is that opportunity, right? And that's what you need to find. It could be something as simple as, there might be some small businesses that just haven't actually put themselves online. And maybe there's a way of offering what they're doing online. They don't have the technical expertise to do it. So we pair them up with somebody who can spin up a quick website, spin up a quick, e-commerce page and that kind of thing for them. It's those little pieces. A lot of that can happen quickly, but it is taking that breath and being able to assess and looking at it in smaller chunks, right? So let's just talk about 30 days and let's just talk about 90 days. Let's see, what is your runway? And the big piece too is I think it's about a prioritization. So what are your priorities? Like, I get it, this is where you want to be. And in a year from now, you might be, but let's make sure you're still going to be here in 3 months. So what are going to be your priorities for the next 3 months that you need to do to move forward? How are you going to change your marketing and your messaging? And the couple waves that I'm seeing that actually I think are working really well is, so there is a really big push on support local right now. Yes. In all the centers. I'm seeing it everywhere, right? It's everything from buy gift certificates to spend later. It's all of those different things. That's going to work well now and later because it's drawing attention to those businesses and they want to see those businesses succeed and they're going to continue to support them. Mm-hmm. So the one thing I'll say though is business owners still need to keep that idea of customer service. If I'm going to support local and I have a great experience with you, I'm going to support you way beyond this challenging time, right?
Yes,
so
that is a great point.
Yes.
Some of the traditional pieces that you always were working on, stay put, right? You still have to care about how you look to your customers and how you present yourself. I think a big part of this too is how are you presenting yourself out? Are you caring about what's going on in your community? Are you showing care for, how you're taking care of things and how are you taking care of your neighbors? That is causing a lot of people to take notice of a lot of businesses, those ones that are reaching out and giving what they have, whether it's a service, whether it's that. Again, not to sound cynical, but that draws attention to you. That gives you a reputation of giving back, and that is going to help you further on. So keeping some of those little things in mind, those are some tips.
I think that's, you actually got into to me, one of the tricky bits of this is that you can't seem opportunistic in doing it, right? Like it's such a line to because I think, what I found is that we were kind of 2 weeks of stop the pain, like it was just comfort was all we needed. And just in the past 2 or 3 days, I started to get people sending in, like, I got a new business idea we want to work on, and I'm putting people in touch with our advisors to do that. And they're just they've done some kind of inventory of, okay, what could I do? And now they're ready to turn it into action. And I would say that we've talked about reaching out, but one of the most important things, sort of from what should you do to make your business go, is broadcasting, I think, is not going to work right now. So it is surprisingly, shockingly easy to get meetings with people that you never thought you'd be able to get meetings with. Your suppliers, your core customers, you you can, and in fact, the other thing is that meetings are lasting not as long now. It's like we kind of figure out that we can do in a 20-minute Zoom call, we can actually conquer what we needed to do, and because we're not drinking coffee and like we don't have to spend the whole hour. So that
the whole time.
Exactly. So that, I mean, it does fill your day up, but like if you have like so uncomfortable, everyone's uncomfortable. Have a call with a core customer and say, how are you doing? Those are just classic business advice that is out there. But if you're looking for an excuse, the world has completely changed. So now is your chance just to restart that conversation, have a tough conversation with someone,
right.
But have your relationship stay a personal relationship.
Absolutely.
And I know all these tactics are, all these steps are, the general strategy of business continuity, right? So it's not just to get over this hump. It's about what, is building on top of that. So these are, great strategies to put in place, but at the same time, those entrepreneurs out there, I feel for you. I really understand. I myself have gone to the brink of bankruptcy, so I really get it where you're going. So we are, reach out for us.
Okay. And on that note, excuse me, we just had a email come in from an organization called momentum.org in Calgary. They said they're offering 3 services for people who need help with their businesses. So people can feel free to reach out to momentum.org as well, another resource in place. And just really quickly on YouTube, we had Lynn Sutherland kind of build on the comments you were all mentioning, and that's conserve cash, focus on keeping current customers, attract new customers by doing something to help them. Look for close adjacent markets to your current business and technology. So a few more ideas.
So I want to keep this conversation moving along. So we've talked a lot about what the current situation is and what you can do now, but let's talk about recovery. So is there a safe way for businesses to get back into business? I'm thinking about being overwhelmed by services, by a demand. Do you anticipate this happening, or is this not an issue at all? Why don't we start with you, Len?
So I don't really have an answer to that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, depending on what business you're in, the recovery process is going to be different. Right. So if you are in the retail service business, I think that's very different than those that we work with that are more, on the technology space business. So I really don't have an answer there. Honestly, this is totally new to me too.
Yeah.
And I think it's good food for thought for people listening in as well. Like what we've got to get our minds into that mindset to think about the future. Lindsay or Terry?
I just want to add one more thing. The only thing that I can say is that in terms of our early stage companies that are looking to raise money, I think that timeline is they got to set a longer timeline. To set that expectation that it's not going to come quick. They got to also set the expectation that the valuation might be different than it was before. So these are changing environment means that expectations got to change with it. So flexibility is important.
So on that note, Len, I know risk is an important thing for startups and investors. Do you anticipate the expectations around risk changing for fundees and funders, and what will that look like?
I think that in terms of investments, I think risk remains, they will always evaluate risk the same. This is making good investment. That is just generally speaking. I'm not the subject matter expert in to speaking on behalf of investors. So this is just my practical note. at the end of the day, they still have to make right investment. So I think that assessing the risk, I think it'll be the same, but the factors will be different.
Yeah. Lindsay or Terry, do you have anything to add to risk?
Terry, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that, we have to, part of the recovery is trying to get your head around what does it look like. So there's like the post-COVID economy is going to be different. And yes. I honestly don't believe it's going to be the same as when, Calgary and Alberta communities have experience recovering from massive tragedies. I don't think it's going to be the same as that because it's so widespread, right? So it's going to be, there's going to be gradual recovery. Like, do you want to fly anywhere in the next 2 years? Like until there's a vaccine and things like that. So like right now, the metaphor I've been using is we're still in the middle of the storm. We don't know what trees are going to fall down, what houses are going to fall down, but the storm's going to end. There's going to be a day when we walk out and the sun is shining and it's blinding us because we've been inside huddling for a long time.
I can't wait for that day.
We're going to look around and go, yeah, that tree is still standing. That house is still standing. That one's really damaged, but we're going to fix it up. That one's damaged. We're going to knock it down. And then we're going to do that assessment and get to work. And so it's really hard to understand that, except that the thing that drove you as an entrepreneur and the thing that drives us as city builders is going to be the same thing that gets us there. We're going to know your ability to pull a team together and to pitch and all of those things is not going away. Your ability to see what an opportunity is not going to go away. And it's just that environment is going to look different. So with these models of when we talk to our board, like our goal is conserve capacity so that we can be part of the recovery. So we might have to slow some things down now so that we have dry powder, so to speak, so that we can really be a part of what happens next. I think the other thing that I would say is this is a theme, but in Alberta's really been fortunate to have the rainforest movement come. And what is the rainforest movement all about? It's all about creating a wildly overlapping, community of connections. And it's those connections and the depth and strength of those connections. It's social capital. And so we got to keep that going. We got to keep our social capital going so that now when our entrepreneurs emerge out of this and they're trying to build businesses, that it's there. And, the rainforest continues every Wednesday in Calgary, and I'm sure in Edmonton it's online. And that sort of connectivity to each other is going to be so important. We kind of have a mantra now about the work that we do is that there's a now more than ever component to this about growing and diversifying our economy. I just quickly checked. Western Canadian Select, $5 a barrel oil right now. So talk about our economy. Maybe this is what's unique about Alberta is a big part of our economy is going to be really hurting. And it's going to be entrepreneurship and innovation that gets us beyond for sure.
Absolutely. I want to ask you guys if you have any predictions on what our economy is going to look like and what you expect to change. I know there's some talks about some sectors needing to evolve or drastically pivot. Give me your predictions for 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. Tell me what is going to be changing in Alberta.
Katie, maybe I'll start if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think part of that prediction also includes the prediction of changes of risk and investment and things like that as well. Everybody is cautious right now, and it's because it's all unknown, right? It's hard to make assumptions. You don't know what's coming. But I think that as we come out of this and the caution lifts, there is going to be an appetite for investment, and there's going to be an appetite for investment in innovation. I think what we're going to see come out of this is the the rapid innovation that's happening to solve problems right now is a good example of how quickly we can form solutions. And I think that's not going to stop. So as we come out of this again, we're going to continue to see rapid acceleration of technology innovation and things like that coming out of places like Alberta. We're seeing it already. We're seeing it out of the research centers and some of those things. That's not going to stop. I'll even go as far into like food production and the supply chain on food and things like that. There's a lot of conversation right now about protection around, our supply chain for food and all of those pieces. Those pieces that come out of this, and there's people working on it right now all over the province, that's just going to continue, because whether we're in a pandemic or not, we're going to want the protection over our supply chain. It is going to come out. It's not like it's going to be a magic switch and everybody's okay again. It's going to be different country by country, and even parts of the country by different parts of the country. So I think it's going to be a little bit of an evolution. I think things are going to change on people's appetite for what they want to invest in, even in terms of a base person spending their money. Right. So people are going to become a little more conscious of where are they putting their money? Where are they spending it? And I think more than ever, and this will be my plug to the entrepreneurs, staying at that level of validating with your customers and consumers what they want is going to be more important than ever over this next little while. So Terry mentioned about having those calls with your clients now. That's important right now, because that's going to give you some answers. You can't sit in a vacuum and make assumptions on what you think they want right now. You need to talk to them, actually talk to them, and see what are their current needs, fears, requirements, whatever you want to say. But I think those conversations are more important than ever going to need to be ongoing as we come out of this, because you need to stay really close to how people's mindsets are changing, where they want to put their money, what do they want as outcomes. And I think validation of your market is going to be more important than ever.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents.
So, I am not good with predictions.
What are you talking about?
And given that we are in unprecedented times, where there's no historical, patterns, I'm not going to give a prediction. However, what I hope to see, or, I think that companies, all the entrepreneurs and the startups that survive this period, I believe that they will come out much stronger.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an isolated event either. I think that these crises could happen again and again. So, to your point, keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
And then those that do come out stronger, I'm hoping that they will then also have an easier access to investments. So because they have proven that they can survive these kind of turmoil, and that in itself strengthens them not only as a company but definitely as leaders and teams. So that I'm hoping for that. And of course, being in the tech sector, I'm hoping that there's going to be a huge more focus on the tech sector being one of the economic drivers in our province.
Absolutely, there's a huge potential for that. Terry, over to you.
Sure. I mean, I think there's going to be some sectors that are differentially impacted. For example, it's hard to imagine our tourism industry coming back fast, because we have to assume that people are going to be reticent to travel for a while. And I think the sort of historical analysis shows that. So we got to really pay attention to that sector. Oil and gas, obviously, is going to take a lot of time to kind of get back to whatever the new normal in that is, because we got kind of opposing forces there, right? We've got renewables coming after that as well. So some of those sectors, I think, are going to take longer to get back to what their new steady state is going to be. Other places, we're really well positioned in Alberta to take advantage of strengths that we have right now. So I see our two cities and actually throughout the province having real strength in medical and health research. And if you add our strength in analytics on top of that, now you have this really interesting cluster of opportunity that is part of the zeitgeist. It is what people are going to be looking for, those kind of things. And I think that we're starting to realize, hey, wait, this is actually an area that globally we have something to offer. is there. So I think that there's going to be a few sectors like that that are just going to actually attract a lot of capital and a lot of interest, and we're well positioned to take advantage of them. And so some of these analytical and AI kind of applications, I think, are also going to be there. The other thing that is intriguing to me is the new way of working.
Yeah.
So we had. I'll give credit to this one from my colleague David Yiptong, who sent me a message and said, think about the fact that our breweries and distilleries flipped to making hand sanitizer in a period of a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but what they learned about themselves is that what business are they in, right? So now all of a sudden in the academic land that I came from, it's dynamic capabilities. That the world changes, but we have some really great things that we can do. So I hope that one of the things that comes out of this is that we have some emboldened entrepreneurs who understand how valuable just the capacities they have to address many different market opportunities in this new world that we're going to have post-COVID.
Absolutely. And I know in the chat box, Mike McCready, shout out to Mike. He's with Bow Valley College, but he's been talking a little bit about Alberta's artificial intelligence and VR sector. So there's a lot of opportunities in those tech areas for sure.
So Katie, Mike's with Lethbridge College, just so you know.
Lethbridge College. I got them mixed up. John.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say that's one of those things is that we're learning about this global connectivity that we have, and the fact that Alberta is actually a really well equipped from a connectivity perspective, and we can take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think everything you guys have just said, and looking at the discussion on YouTube, some of the key message that keeps coming up is relationships, building relationships, maintaining relationships, being genuine in your approach to business. I'm thinking, if we could just get a comment, like talking about all this COVID stuff, the world is changing, our business, the way we're doing business is changing, the way we're working is changing. What's one message of hope that each of you would want to impart to the listeners coming out of all of this? Why don't we start with you, Lindsay?
Sure. All right. So I said I was going to do this. So I said, I'm going to paraphrase Mr. Rogers, right? Mr. Rogers used to say, when things are scary, look for the helpers. You'll always find helpers, right? And that is a legit comment, and it just is, right? I don't care what anyone says. Mr. Rogers is a genius, and he is. But you know what? We've spent years building up these ecosystems, the RINs, all of these things. There's been money invested in it. Now they're showing it, right? They're showing up, and that's the whole idea, right? And to Lan's point, everything's overwhelming for entrepreneurs right now. There is a lot to muddle through. It takes one reach out, and it does. And it actually doesn't matter who you reach out to, because they're going to do their work to pull in the right people, right? It could be us at Alberta Innovates. It could be NRC and IRAP. It could be Economic Development, Trade and Tourism. It could be a number of people that way. It could be Business Link. It could be Platform. It could be Tech Edmonton. It could be Innovate Edmonton. It could be Startup Lloydminster. And because we're remote right now, we're not limited. Right? I'm in Lethbridge, but I can help a software company up in Edmonton because I have background in software, as an example, right? So coming together in those relationships, as isolated as remote as we feel right now, those ecosystems have been in place for years. And I will say, until the end of time, leverage the heck out of those ecosystems. There's a reason those partners are there.
Yes.
And they've been there. They've been there prior to this. They'll be there after this. And the more brains you can get onto your challenges and problems, the better off you will be in the long run. So yeah, my takeaway is just continue to reach out. Don't be afraid. Don't feel like you're in it alone. Like I said, we don't have all the answers, but we can put a lot of people on those questions for you, and you'll be better off for that, for sure.
That's
right
great.
On. Yeah, thanks, Lindsay.
So to add on Lindsay's comments, just remember, it does take a village to grow a business, to grow a startup. So that in a nutshell, we are here for you. However, what's also more important is that you have to believe in yourself. You started a business for a reason. There's that passion that you got to dig deep into, and I really believe that, you know, having that passion and that, you know, go back to your core. Why did you start the business? That I hope will drive you or take you through this period.
That's really inspiring, Len. What about you, Terry?
Absolutely.
Well, you know, I think the situation is definitely more difficult, but the work we have to do is the work that we've had to do in this province for a long time. And there's no other place in the world, if you really do the math, there's no other place in the world that I'd rather be doing it than in Alberta. Because I think we have the biggest opportunity of anywhere in the world to make this happen.
Yeah.
Can I give a quick shout out? We have tomorrow morning at 10, we're doing the Alberta Innovation Corridor Town Hall. And that is focused on amplifying the advocacy efforts to make sure that the right programs come to help our innovation ecosystem. And that'll be hosted by myself and Cheryl Watson. So we'd love to see more people there.
Cool.
Great.
Terry, how do people register for that?
There is, you just follow the socials on Platform Calgary, Innovate Edmonton, or the Alberta Innovation Corridor website, which is abcorridor.com. There's lots of information there as well.
Okay.
Great. We'll tweet about it as well, so that people listening can tap into that. So I want to wrap up a little bit here, but I want to give the people who are listening a chance to ask questions to our speakers. So everyone listening, we're going to just sit tight for a couple minutes. If you have any questions that you want to ask any one of our speakers, please do so now. Just type it into the chat box there on your right.
So at this point, I just want to give a huge shout out to all our frontline folks in our province that is keeping us healthy and safe. So super grateful for that.
And a shout out to the manufacturers who are really stepping up to help those efforts around ventilators and such.
Yep. So I'm just looking at some of the notes on YouTube, and you know, we've got, I'm not seeing a lot of questions. There is one, JP, domestic secure supply chain across a number of sectors will hopefully present opportunity. Today, PPE, prescriptions, tomorrow, ag food. So I think it's more of a comment.
I agree with that. That's kind of one of the things I sort of was thinking about mentioning is that the way the opportunity environment is going to change is that this the shop local, the think local, the resilience of our overall economy is going to be a theme. And if you're addressing a resilience supply chain resilience problem in your business, that's likely to be more valuable in the coming months under any kind of scenario of recovery time.
Yeah. And there are a lot of associations working on that. So like just a shout out, like we've got, you know, the Potato Growers Association down here and the Sugar Beet Growers Association. We've got the Plant Protein Alliance and the Food Corridor. And all of them, that is what they're talking about right now, right? They're talking about how to improve and protect the supply chain for food, right? That's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Seeing as we have no other questions popping up, do you guys want to leave us with anything before we pull the plug on this?
Break for lunch.
Yeah. Terry, Lan, go ahead.
I just want to say, reach out. I mean, we're here. We're waiting for you.
And how do we get a hold of you? Twitter?
So techedmonton.com. You can get a hold of me there. You can get a hold of me at Twitter. So it's at Lantan Elevates. So happy to be, to help you guys out there. And then I'll find who can help you. We have a good team. We have a huge team. We have coaches. We have entrepreneurs, executives, and residents. We have volunteers. So we have a great network that can help.
Awesome. Terry, how about you?
Thank you.
You know, my final thought is a thanks to the entrepreneurs who are getting up every morning and giving it to keep their business going. I see people in programs that are learning every day and all of those kind of things. A special part of my heart goes to the Alberta brewer industry and distillers, because I worked for them for a couple of years, and so I want to thank them for keeping the supply chain going of amazing Alberta beer that uses amazing Alberta barley and amazing Alberta water. That's been something I look forward to. I've actually had to schedule it now so that I don't overindulge, but it's amazing to be, yeah, exactly. Airport. Yeah. So no, but it's amazing to be to have the privilege of serving that Alberta's entrepreneurial community. And so thanks to them for continuing to rock it every day.
Lindsay, there is a question in the YouTube app here that I think I'm going to direct to you. And you can also give your final thoughts then as well. So we have a question: how much collaboration is there across groups and associations? In many of my experiences, I found Alberta to be clustered in small groups and mostly disconnected. Curious if that's real or not.
So honestly, I think it's both. I think that there have been clusters notoriously, and I think there have been silos and things like that. I've seen that throughout the province in different places. I think more than ever, those silos are starting to break down because they have to. So, I look at our recovery task force down here. We've had a pretty high functioning, mature RIN in the past, but even some new organizations that are coming in that maybe were on the peripheral, on the sideline of it, are starting to come in. But the chambers working together with allied arts councils, with Business Link, with, counselors, lawyers, accounting firms, things like that, those silos are really breaking down. And I'm seeing a lot of, I'll say, more cohesive effort around those things just because we have to. So I think as an outcome of this, the great thing would be for us to be conscious of that, so that continues after the fact and not just during. And I think that'll be part of it. But the other thing too, I'll say, and particularly to the person that posted that too, is if you're seeing that, call it out too. And I mean that very sincerely, because it's easy for everybody to get blinders down in their own world and things like that too. And 9 out of 10 times, it's not intentional. It's just they weren't thinking about it. Right. So, if you're struggling with getting a couple people to talk to each other or something, like Terry said, it's never easier to get people on the phone right now. And that's true. So, starting to pull people together on joint calls and things like that, that's happening more and more. It makes it easier. I think as a bit of a final thought, I do want to give a shout out to just the resiliency that we're seeing across Alberta, entrepreneurs, businesses, the pivots, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
This is a resilient province made up of resilient people, right? And we rebound, we take care of ourselves, we take care of others, and it's being seen all over the place. The really positive piece I'm seeing is there is a ton of authenticity coming out. People's, empathetic natures in business and in everything are really coming out to work together. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I'd like to see that continue. As a reminder for everybody, of course, there are a ton of, program services and things like that. But just remember, like I mentioned at the top, there are 10 of me in the province. There are technology development advisors stationed all over. So, you've got Lloydminster and Red Deer and Medicine Hat, and they're all over the place. You can find someone to talk to. You can talk to your RINs. Take advantage of that. Don't be afraid to reach out. Alberta Innovates has a lot of information on their website to navigate through. But you know what I mean? If you don't know where you're going, just shoot an email and someone will direct you to the right space. I think that's important to remember.
Absolutely. I have one comment here on YouTube that I want to just bring forward. Coralie Banks said, our stats with our active angel network indicate they're still investing, so keep moving forward. So that's a really great message.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we have time for one more question.
Sure.
And then think about wrapping up after that. Now, it's a kind of a health-related question. It's from Radley Robots. He's saying, or he or she, I want to continue with customer validation, but as my business is health adjacent, everyone is super distracted right now. Any ideas for continuing on with this during the situation? Does anyone want to speak to that? Or
so that's a very general question, which I probably will need a little bit more information in order for me to give an answer. So Radley Robot, please reach out and we can schedule a 1-hour meeting to learn more.
Right on. Thanks.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that if you're, if they're health adjacent, maybe one of the questions might be is, are they, so they're basically, I wonder if the point is that they can't get anyone in the health industry's attention because they're trying to maybe get in there. So that could be, yeah, if those people are basically fully occupied, that might be the one group that doesn't have time for Zoom calls.
Right.
It's true.
Well, Radley's responded.
John, I will. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, I just said Radley responded and said he'll reach out to Tan. So go ahead, Lindsay.
No, I was just going to say, and the one thing I've been doing, I had a couple clients in the health piece too. Alberta Innovates has a health innovation division, and they are, quite well connected through. So again, rather than, I'll say, spitballing into a bunch of different directions, trying to get somebody on the phone, if you can leverage somebody like our health innovation department for Alberta Innovates, again, we can, they can do a bit of homework on, what are you trying to do? Who are you trying to talk to? And they might be able to leverage some of the right connections at the right times with people, particularly in the health space right now. So again, I think that there's avenues you can take like that to get in.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
can I give a quick comment on I was just going to say one of the things that I think we should reflect on is that Alberta Innovates has invested in a regional innovation network that is comprised of community responsive organizations. And so we're able to, in these kind of situations, you see it come to life. We're on the ground with the people. It's not centralized, it's decentralized. And then we can aggregate things. And so that maybe is an advantage that our province has that other places don't have, is that we've invested in a distributed network of people that can be community responsive to the needs of what's happening in their community, that in these times and in other times. So I think that's something we can sort of applaud. I think it's 15 years or 12 years of ongoing investment to make happen. So that's a good thing for our province.
Absolutely.
That's a great message.
I
Thank
agree.
you, Terry. Right on. Well, I think based on what everybody's saying on YouTube, they appreciate this opportunity to listen to you all speak about these very important items and how to navigate through COVID-19 and ideally keep their heads above water. So, Katie, any final notes?
No, not from me, but I just wanted to thank you all for coming on today. And just again, noting to everybody listening, if you missed certain segments of this chat, don't worry. We'll also be putting it on the Shift by Alberta Innovates podcast. You can re-listen and fast forward or whatever to the parts that you missed. So thank you, everybody. This was wonderful. And let's continue the conversation on Twitter, #ShiftLiveChat. Okay. Adios.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you all.
There you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.